I can hear Stacy loud and clear.
Okay, I'm gonna get it out.
And audio is now broadcasting.
Olaf, did you end the call? Did you end the call? Alright. What's happening on your phone?
What screen can you see? Can you see the?
I see you. I see the home screen.
You're seeing me too?
Yeah.
Okay, you shouldn't see me now.
You're out.
Yeah. Okay, just give me a minute.
Oh man.
Good evening, everyone. If you can see me, please just wave. If you can hear me, just wave. Okay, thanks, Sunday Adams. Thank you, Aderonke. Thank you. We have Chinyere. Myra, thanks a lot. Chinyere, can you hear me? Okay, we're just going to wait for 5 minutes and then we will start. So it's 4:05. We'll start at 4:10 on the dot. Thank you.
Is it possible to have audio from the audience?
Oh yeah, so I'll mute everyone now. I'll unmute everyone so they can talk. Okay. So everyone should be able to talk now. Sunday, can you say hi to everyone? Sunday Adams.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Sunday Adams here.
Okay. Where are you joining from?
I'm joining from Abuja.
Wow, Abuja, Nigeria. Thanks a lot, bro.
Abuja people.
Yeah, we're here, bro.
Hi, Myra.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. You?
Great, thank you.
Great. Where are you joining from? Let me guess. Don't worry, just say.
Well, currently I'm in Ottawa.
Right.
Yes.
Hey, my own
I'm from
Myra.
Bolivia.
So Sunday, Ottawa is a city
Abuja of
in,
Canada.
yeah, it's like Abuja of Canada, right? That's like the capital.
No, this is Abuja of Nigeria.
Chinyere, hi.
Hi, Chi. Hi.
Right. Thanks a lot for joining. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Lagos, Nigeria.
Wow, my Lagos people.
I had no idea you could hear me.
Oh, wow. I unmuted you actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
right. Yeah. Adironke,
Ikonibaja.
you may need to interpret that. You may need to translate that to something that Myra can understand.
Yeah, I just said Lagos live long, right?
Right.
Oh, okay. A Coney
Um,
budget.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chinyere. We have Path also. I do believe that that's the correct pronunciation of your name. Can you unmute yourself so we can hear you?
Hi,
Hi. Thanks a lot for joining. Where are you joining from?
Ottawa.
Great. We have two people from Ottawa. Cool.
Pat,
How's
my
Ottawa today?
homie, my buddy.
Yes, I'm Taiwo student.
Good stuff.
You give
Good
me out.
stuff.
I don't know you from nowhere. Which Taiwo are you talking about?
Taiwo Abraham.
I think that name is familiar.
I'm trying to send Adirunke. If please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hi. Hello. Who do we have? Okay, that's
This is
Adirunke.
Adeola.
Right.
Yes,
Thanks a lot for joining. Where are you joining us from?
Lagos, Nigeria.
Those are my people, Lagos people. Last giddy. How's Lagos today?
Good, peaceful, quiet.
Good
Good.
stuff. Sounds good. Sounds like the dream Lagos.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So in 2 minutes, in 1 minute we will start, and so once we start, I will unmute everyone. If you have any question, if you want to pass any messages across, please use the chat box. And we can. What did you say?
I guess that was in for you.
Right. Yes, I agree. Okay. We will start now. Right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining this online info session facilitated by Helping Other People Succeed, H.O.P.S. So I'm just going to spend the first few minutes talking about what the webinar is and what H.O.P.S is, what we do, and the areas that we cover. And then I'll hand you over to our main facilitator, Taiwo Abraham. He will introduce himself, run through his profile, and then he'll do a deep dive into the presentation today. During the course of the presentation, if you have questions, please use the chat box to send your questions. At the end of his presentation, I'll read out all your questions to him and be assured that he will answer them effectively. So H.O.P.S basically stands for Helping Other People Succeed. It's a social enterprise that myself and Taiwo co-founded to be able to provide coaching, mentoring, some bit of training, resume development, and a lot of other stuff to professionals in some selected career lines and professions. These are the things that we do basically. These are the things that we do. We do group coaching and mentoring. Last year we ran a one-on-one coaching initiative where we spoke to 40 people across 4 countries: Nigeria, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the USA. We also do one-on-one coaching and mentoring. We do regular online info sessions and webinars, something like this. We do speed mentoring. We're going to be doing a lot of speed mentoring. We're going to be going to institutions, colleges, and we'll be providing some bit of mentoring to them. We also do site training for real-world experience and certifications. We help professionals to get interview ready by doing mock interviews and informational interviews. Because we work within a selected space, business analysis, project management, agile, scrum, and all of those things, we're able to refer people that have passed through helping other people succeed for jobs. So for example, if there is a project coordinator or project manager role in an organization that we have a foot in, we can easily look at the people that we've mentored or coached or trained, and then we can refer them to those jobs, and then we help with resume development. These are the areas that we cover for now, right? Business analysis, project management, change management, agile and scrum, business intelligence and data analytics, and some bit of entrepreneurship. We believe that very soon we'll be able to bring on board other professions, but for now, these are the areas that we cover. So I'm gonna hand you over to Taiwo now, who is our major presenter, and Taiwo will run us through the presentation. Remember, if you have any question, please use the chat box, and at the end of this presentation, we'll answer all of your questions. So just give me a minute while I make Taiwo the right presenter, and I also give him
so maybe you just make me have control of your keyboard and not presenter.
You have it. You have it. So when you're ready, Taiwo, you have the floor.
Can we see your screen? We don't have your screen anymore.
Okay, so I'm just gonna just give me a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so you have control of the mouse and the keyboard, and you can use my screen.
Okay, cool. Okay, I see someone came in while Bola was doing the introduction. We went through introduction already. Can you unmute yourself and let us know you? Okay, we're going to go on. So I'm Taiwo Abraham. Bola is my pal that we do this together, and we've been in the same space for almost 15 years now. We didn't become PMP 15 years ago, but we had our bachelor's degree from the same campus in Nigeria, and sometimes in 2009, I had just stopped working as an IT manager in a business center, and I was looking for something else to do. So I was hell bent on doing some networking certifications, and that was the in thing back then. Then I spoke with this uncle of mine who said that there's something called project management. Do you want to check it out? I was like, okay. By the time I Googled it, there were only a few companies training project management in Nigeria. It was very expensive, but it looked like exactly what I wanted to do. I had to sell my car. I quit my job. I switched city from where I was living to Lagos, where I could get the training. and I went all the way for it. Now that was in 2009. Um, for whatever it's worth, I would say it has turned out to be one of the best decisions that I have made in my life, like career wise. Just as soon as I was getting the certification, I got in touch with Bola and we're like, okay, this looks like where we want to head. We've done it and we've been two peas in a pod since then. And I would say that for a typical Nigerian, we've had a very interesting career. We've both had opportunities at the highest places where you can operate as project managers in Nigeria. The last experience I had before leaving Nigeria was at the central bank, where we were creating a project management framework for the entire bank and creating processes, templates, and all the tools they use for managing projects today. Just in 2016, attributed to what we did for them, they saved about 9 billion naira in their project budget. So that kind of life just gives us a good sense of self fulfillment and accomplishment. Um, so when we think about all these things, we just feel that it's not something that we should keep to ourselves. There are many people who feel the way we feel, who share the same ambition we shared a long time ago. There are more people who have now come to the knowledge of what value PMP credential can add to them, and they are looking for ways to get into that space. And so the first thing we think is important is information, right? So we hope that at the end of this session, you would be equipped with enough information to be able to structure out your plan on how to get certified. I wouldn't know if someone is certified already, how to sustain your credential. That's the goal for today. Is there any questions so far?
None for now. So
Okay. So I'll introduce you to PMI quickly. I will discuss why you should be a PMI member, the purpose of the PMBOK, the values in PMP certification, the examination itself, the type of questions you would see in the exam, the roadmap to becoming a PMP, roadmap to sustaining the PMP credential, and some of the ethics that PMI required of a PMP. So the PMI is a project management institute. It was founded in 1969. This year we'll be celebrating 50 years of PMI. PMI is not a government agency. It's not an academic institution. It's just a not-for-profit private organization that coordinates the project management profession all over the world. It's about the most recognized body that conducts research and creates standards for project managers across the globe. Over the years, they have published the PMBOK. The PMBOK is the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide. It's a compilation of standards that that project managers apply in the execution of their jobs and creating repeatable processes to deliver consistent value to their clients. So the PMI has no authority to in any of these in any country. It's all just a voluntary kind of affiliation for anyone who wants to be part of PMI. They made a landmark progress in the US in 2016 when they got an act through the parliament to legislate the inclusion of project managers in government projects and big programs. So far, that's the only country that recognizes Project Management Institute as a leading professional body. Every other part of the world, they recognize PMI as a good institute to be affiliated to if you're a project manager. And so the respect you get as an affiliate of PMI is the same respect that they have for PMI itself. I had to clarify that because it's unlike how you find yourself in countries where there's some kind of license you have to obtain for you to be a for you to practice or something. There is no such regulation. It's totally voluntary, but there's a lot of value that it confers on you once you become a member. There are over 860 PMP credentials in more than 210 countries. That tells us that nearly all over the world you find PMPs. There are other credentials that PMI provides, but we focus on PMP today. Personally, an example of some of the values you get from being a PMP credential holder um, is on a trip I made to India some years ago. I was in a meeting, business meeting, and I was having this conversation, and someone walked up to me and said, I've heard you speak for a few minutes. I think you are a PMP. I said, yes. He said, oh, yeah, I'm a PMP too. I could recognize the language you're using, that you must have some connection with the PMI. And that became our bond. I was able to strike good deals that would require many years of building trust within an instant, because someone felt this is someone who is a part of a big family of project managers all over the world. So you find that it's headquartered in the US. It is the biggest advocate of best practice in project, program, and portfolio management. The credentials that PMI provide, you see Certified Associate in Project Manager for folks who don't have the requirement to be able to apply for PMP yet. I'll get into that later. And then you have the PMP itself, Project Management Professional. You have the Risk Management Professional and the others that you have on the screen there. Moving on. So what is the PMBOK? It's a very popular book. You hear a lot of people mention this. This is like the Bible for project managers who practice, who apply the standards that PMI advocates in their project. So if you are a PMP, this is one book that you would spend a lot of time with in the process of getting your PMP. It's also a book that you will reference all through your career life. It's constantly evolving. Every 4 years, PMI update the PMBOK to reflect the new trends in the market and to reflect the latest information that may be useful to project managers across the globe. It's people like you and I who review the PMBOK. PMI basically relies on the input of practitioners and academics who may be conducting research in project management. It's a reference for professionals. It's not an exam prep for people trying to pass the PMP. We will talk more about that shortly. The structure is basically divided into 3 sections. There's a framework where you get to see an overview of the text. You get to see what project management is all about, the value of using the PMBOK. You get to see the roles of project manager and the types of organizations in which these practices can be applied and stuff like that. And then in section 2 is where you find the much more details about what project management is all about, what principles, what process groups, what stages of development, what life cycle, and all of that are to project management. And you get to the knowledge areas where you go over the 10 knowledge areas of project management. those areas are just areas that the project manager has to um, have some knowledge if he is going to excel as a project manager. I'll save you details of those until you begin your journey into passing the PMP exam. So why would you want to become a PMP? It's widely recognized, like I said earlier on. Anywhere you are in the world, you mentioned that you're a PMP, you instantly gain recognition and some kind of respect because the PMI that provides that certification is a prestigious organization. From a personal experience, I moved from Nigeria to the US and then from the US to Canada. Unlike the experience many people would tell you about such kind of relocation, I got to Canada and in a space of 2-3 weeks, I got a great, a decent job that some will pray to get. And it's the same kind of experience for many people who carry this credential around. The idea of you gaining a local experience or being part of local network before you get a job really doesn't apply to you because the PMP credential confers on you a global status that you understand the best practices of project management wherever you are in the world. It demonstrates proof of professional achievement. The exam is not an easy cheese. So if you are able to go through the process of passing that exam, it speaks volume about you when you approach any organization or any opportunity. I will rather hire an inexperienced PMP than hire a project manager who has had a lot of experience doing trial and error on projects. And that ties into the next point, that it improves the way you manage your project. So what you see with being a PMP is that it provides you a repeatable set of tools that you use on projects you encounter, and so whatever success you have achieved in the past, you can always replicate because the processes and tools you're using are the same, and they are documented, and you basically don't gamble. You don't engage in some kind of trial and error. You know exactly what you're doing from the beginning to the end. Increases your marketability. I cannot overemphasize how marketable you are. If I may go a little deeper into my background, in Nigeria, for our friends from Nigeria, you know what it means to be connected or to have godfathers or find someone who can work your way into a high-paying employment. So if you don't have that and you graduated with a third class from your bachelor's degree, it's some kind of doom. So that is who I was in 2009. I had graduated 3 years before that from school. I wasn't really interested in school anyway, so I was going around with a third class, studied botany in the university, so the odds were so much against me. But since I got certified as a PMP, I haven't had to present my bachelor's degree for any of the jobs that I have done since then. The conversation mostly ended when I said I was a PMP, and because I was able to deliver on the job, I got references for the next job and got references for the next job. And of course, I have had opportunities to improve on what I did with my bachelor's degree, but I'm saying that the PMP confers a lot of opportunity on you and a lot of credibility, and removes whatever doubts that anyone may have about your competency when you approach them for engagement. It displays your willingness to pursue growth, increases customer confidence. It's a highly um, it's a really prestigious credential to have. If you are going through this process, I would assume that you already have some interest in the credential, but whatever I can tell you would be an underestimation of what value you get from being a PMP. Bola, you may chime in, but I have been a PMP for about 10 years. I have trained over 1,500 practitioners across the world, and I cannot recollect one individual who I trained and has become a PMP who is not gainfully employed. Um, there are situations where I want to work with GE, but I'm not getting GE for now. So you may not necessarily land your dream job, but you have a lot of opportunity to keep you busy and productively busy while you pursue your dream job. It's a highly sought after credential globally. Statistics has it that since 2009 that I started to track the global um, rating of the PMP credential. It's one of top 5 most valuable professional credentials all over the world. And when you talk about salary advantage, they compare PMP to a typical MBA degree holder, slightly higher for when compared in general to the MBA population. But when you throw in the Ivy Leagues and their salary post MBA, PMP credential holders earn just a little lower than the average for the MBA degree holders. So what I'm saying is that you don't even need a college degree to be able to earn the same pay that an MBA degree holder would earn. That tells you there's a lot of respect for this credential. The examination itself, it's not one of those exams that you just put down money and say, I want to do it, or train me, I want to just pass the PMP. There are qualification processes that you have to meet. The first one is that you need to get an education. The education has to be project management related. So if you don't have a degree that has a course in project management, you would need to enroll in one of the accredited uh, education providers for project management. You need a minimum of 35 hours of project management education. That is standard. You need that right from when you want to start applying for the exam. Prior to you applying for the exam, you must have had as much as 3 years of project management experience, 3 years post-bachelor's degree. If you don't have a college degree, you need the 7 years post-secondary school or high school. You need a 6 years of project management experience. If you have all of that, then you might get a chance to get approved to take the PMP exam. So the exam will last 4 hours. It's all MCQ, multiple choice questions. The 10 knowledge areas that PMI thinks the project manager should be competent with would be tested. You will have 200 questions, but only 175 of those questions will be graded. There are 25 of those questions that are pilot, they are being tested for future purposes, and so they will not be graded pass or fail. Don't try guessing which of your questions will be those 25, because they are designed for you not to even know the difference. It will be a waste of time to start looking into can this be one of those 25. So just go into the exam like you want to take a 200 question exam, and it spans 4 hours. So there are some of the um, times that people don't pass this exam, not because they are not knowledgeable, not because they don't know the answers, or it's just the rigor of sitting down for 4 hours and trying to get through the PMP exam. The way the exam is structured is like you, as a project manager, you resume a day job and you have 200 files on your table, and you need to resolve each of those in 4 hours. The exam doesn't test your knowledge of definitions or your knowledge of terminologies. It tests your application of the knowledge of project management. So what you would see would be situation-based kind of questions that gives you a scenario and then tells you to answer the question based on your knowledge of best practices and some of the standards you must have seen in the PMBOK. There is always one correct answer. If you find two similar answers, you just need to look well. There is always only one correct answer. Any other option will give you 0 score. There is no negative marking. You should make sure you finish the exam. It's not like the GMAT or GRE that getting a question wrong can hurt your score. Getting through the questions is important because you don't lose anything for finishing, but you also want to make sure that you manage your time well to avoid that kind of situation. The questions are randomly generated because sometimes you have many people in the same venue writing the exam. You don't necessarily have the same questions in front of you, and you could write the exam 5 times, 6 times without having to do the same exam again. There are lots and lots of questions in the exam bank that you will be that PMI distributes from time to time. There are the 5 domains of knowledge that the exam will test you on. There's the initiating stage of the project, and where you get to identify what project you want to do. You get to see your project charter, and your stakeholders become visible at that point. You have your business case and the contract. Whatever can give a live status to the project is done during that stage. You'll find 13% of the 400 questions, which is 26. These are distributed randomly, so you would not necessarily go in sequence of the first 26, the next 48, the next 62. No, they are randomly distributed. So I'm going to tell you the importance of knowing why the questions are distributed like this shortly after now. So planning takes 24% of the whole of the 200 questions, and you have executing taking 62 of those questions, monitoring and controlling taking 50 of those 200, and closing taking the remaining 14 questions. The essence of seeing the distribution of this is that there is no pass mark for the PMP exam. So it's not like a typical exam that every point you score counts towards your passing. And so if you score perhaps 80% or 70%, you pass. No, the PMI wants to see that you are efficient in all the domains of knowledge that a project manager has to be efficient. And so you would see your results screen as your results screen will show this domain like it is here. So for instance, in front of initiating, you're going to see whether you are proficient, moderately proficient, or below proficient. Excuse me. If you are below proficient, it means that you did not score high enough in initiating. In planning, you see moderately proficient, proficient, or below proficient. So what we've seen over the years is that you don't want to have below proficient in planning, in executing, and in monitoring and controlling. Having below proficient in just executing can make you fail the exam. Having below proficient in just planning can make you fail the exam, but it depends on the degree to which you flunk planning. So if you barely fall below the moderately proficient boundary in planning and you have everything else, you may find yourself still passing the exam. So as you go through the preparation for the exam, you need to test your skills on each of the domains and not just the overall score. So you need to find preparatory materials that will tell you your performance in each of these domains, because scoring as high as 80 could be that you scored everything in executing, you scored everything in planning, everything in initiating and closing, but then you're failing monitoring and controlling. That will hurt you badly in the exam. So you want to spread your skills. You want to make sure that you're proficient in each of the domain of knowledge. So like I've mentioned already, the exam is scenario based. You don't get to do a lot of definitions. The definitions would help you in sorting through the options in the MCQ, but the exam itself will not test your knowledge of definition. If you're taking the CAPM, which is a certified associate in project management, you would find some questions that are testing your knowledge of definition, knowledge of terminologies, and some of those kind of book stuff. But for the PMP exam, you need the knowledge of definition and terminology so that you can eliminate answers in the MCQ and filter down to the correct answers. You'll be using attached illustrations such as network diagram or whatever diagram that they make available to you in the exam to analyze situations and selecting the right answers. You would fill in the blanks in some scenario. The filling blanks does not necessarily mean you're going to type something. It's just a situation where something is missing in a sentence and you need to find it in the multiple choices that you have. So you just keep in mind that for all the 200 questions, you would have to select one correct option out of 4 options. You will not have 5 options. You will not have 3 options. You would always have 4 options. There are the quantitative side of project management that I think candidates usually enjoy, because now all you need to do is to calculate using the formula and get the answer. Those kind of questions are easier to deal with than the scenario-based questions where you do not know exactly if you are taking the right option or not. You should pay attention to such things like except, all but, not. So let me give you a scenario. They give you a situation like you're being a project manager for this project. Everything has been going well. Suddenly, a stakeholder showed up and complained about something that has already been decided many weeks back on the project. It seems like everybody is listening to this stakeholder and your project may be coming to a halt. That's a scenario. Now, the next question that will follow will be, or could be, what is the correct thing to do? You will see the word correct in uppercase, or they can say, what is the next step for the project manager? You will see the word next in uppercase, or you can see something like, what is a corrective action to take. You will see the word corrective in uppercase. You need to pay attention to those kind of words because they usually would help you to know how to think about the scenario. For instance, for that same scenario, the next step to take would be different from when the question says, um, what problem could have led to this? So in this case, we are doing a more of diagnosis of a problem that has occurred. So the problem would be what exactly went wrong in the past. But when you see something like what is the next step, so we assume that you will do the diagnosis and then you are ready to fix the problem. So you'll be looking for the next step and not necessarily talking about the problem that led us to where we are again. So you need to pay attention to descriptors. They are very important. As soon as you're reading your question and you identify those descriptors, you will save time filtering through the answers to the correct answers. Typically, if you are well read, if you really are familiar with the language and the PMBOK, if you have studied very well, when you read a PMP question, you easily can eliminate two options without struggling. Then you're usually left with two likely answers that you need to demonstrate some knowledge to be able to get through. And so paying attention to detail would help you. Being very, very familiar with the processes as laid out in the PMBOK, especially on page 25 of the PMBOK, where you have the process flows and the process map. If you understand that and you understand the flow and the dependencies between those processes, it will help you to be able to identify where an option may have been skewed to be wrong, even though it looks like the correct option. So I'm going to get into the roadmap to becoming a PMP. We usually advocate that you become a PMI member. The reason for that is just because you have you enjoy some discounts when you want to apply for your PMP exam. But before that, you need the PMBOK for you to prepare for your PMP exam. So you can either go to the market and buy it at somewhere around $60 and pay shipping, and you're spending roughly around $100 to get it. Or you can become a PMI member, and as soon as your membership is accepted, you have access to an e-copy of the PMBOK. And so that means you can avoid the whole process of having to ship and buy the PMBOK hard copy. For some reason, some people prefer the hard copy. I got the third edition of the PMBOK when I was preparing for my exam, but soon after that, I haven't owned a hard copy ever since because it's outdated every 4 years, and I have access to complimentary copy every time I renew my membership. So then I'm probably okay looking at the screen, reading a textbook. But for those who don't enjoy reading from screen, they usually would want to favor the hard copy. But the good thing is that you can always download the complimentary copy and print it out if you have access to cheap printing. So when you become a PMI member, you can submit your PMP application. Just note that your PMP application is not dependent on PMI membership. Anybody can be a PMI member. I think that as of now, PMI members globally are somewhere around 600,000, and you see the figures we gave of the PMP credential holders, about 860 something thousand. So that means there are PMPs who are not necessarily PMI members, but there are lots of benefits for being a PMI member. I may get into more details on that if we have time, or if we get questions regarding that. Okay. Then when you submit your exam application and it's approved, you schedule your exam with Prometric, and then you go take your exam. But just before that, okay, it's just right ahead. I can quickly tell you about some of the principles of PMI. A project uh, does not exist without a charter. So this is a standard according to PMI. There are many projects that happen out there without a project charter. In many organizations I have worked with, we did project that we did not necessarily create a document called the project charter, but does that mean the project charter did not exist? No, we had a project charter. It's just the nomenclature that was different. So what is important for PMI is that you need to have a document, or you need to document the information that provide what we call the project charter. So the project charter is foundational to whatever success you would have on the project. That's a PMI standard. Project scope includes all of the work and only the work that is required to succeed on the project. That is, you don't include works that are good to the vendor or that are good to the client. It has to be only the work that contributes to the success of the project, as far as the client is concerned. So if you have a contract that says you should deliver 10 laptops of XYZ specification, that is all that should be included in the scope. Um, Adding some nice to haves like maybe shock pad, or maybe accessories, nice to have accessories. Yeah, it may be of value to the client, but as far as scoping of the project is concerned, it has to be exactly what meets the requirement for the project. Activities are estimated by the team. That is, the project manager doesn't go into silo and create the estimate for the project. The team should all be involved with estimating activities. It just increases the credibility and the integrity of those estimates. Lessons learned should be collected throughout the project. Um, um, you need to establish the extent of completion if the project is terminated prematurely. There are projects you won't naturally see to the end because of changes in the landscape. For instance, a business case that we have used to justify a project fails suddenly, and we need to stop the project. So let's say, for example, Bola and I decided that we're going to embark on a project. The project is to help newly landed immigrants to get settled in Canada into job space, and we have invested, say, 5 months of work into that project. And suddenly, Canadian government came up and said, from today onward, we are no longer welcoming immigrants. What would be the justification for continuing that project? The business case has failed, and so we would be looking at modifying that project to solve a different problem, or terminating the project completely. And so those are some of the things that you want to establish when you terminate a project. You have the work breakdown structure, which usually is the basis for all the planning activities. You have quality, which should not be an afterthought. You need to think about quality ahead of whatever execution that you're going to do on the project. Um, Project management plan should drive how the project work will be carried out. So project management plan is not a document you create and keep on a shelf, and then when you finish the project, you come back to check if you have worked according to your plan. The plan should continuously drive the project and continuously get updated as change requests are being approved all through the life of the project. Risk should be identified throughout the project. You need to identify all stakeholders to prevent changes. So this is not something you can do one-off. It's an iterative process. every stage of the project you get to, you would need to think about stakeholders all over again. I can go on and on, but these are just basic principles. And the reason why we decided to mention some of these principles is so that you can identify that what PMI stands for is more of an ideology and not necessarily, um, 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 how do I say this? The logo or the badge of being a PMP is not necessarily the assets that employers are buying. It is the ideologies that the PMI represent that employers are buying. So when I show up at the door of an employer and I say I'm PMP and they are interested in me, what they are interested in is the ideologies of PMI that they think that will help their project. So as an employer, I know that this guy who calls himself PMP must have demonstrated sufficient proof to PMI that he can apply all these principles of PMI to my project. And because these principles have been delivering success over the past 50 years, I can trust that this guy is also going to be successful on my project. So that's the whole essence of talking about these principles. There are many of them that you will come across in your journey towards becoming a certified PMP. You can see there are some more there. I need to start wrapping up now. So applying for the PMP exam itself, you can easily go to the PMI.org and or you can use this link on the screen to get a PDF version of the handbook that spelled out in detail every step of the application and some of the requirements you need to submit. Yeah, that's some more details about the PMP credential. I've spoke about that already. So a quick run through of this requirement. Sorry, it's my mouse that is messing up. As far as degree holders are concerned, you need 4,500 hours of project management experience, 3 years of experience, or 36 months of project management experience. I'm going to tell you why this is important. So it's not sufficient for you to say, I graduated 2 years ago, but I have 3 years of experience. You must have had 3 years post-bachelor's leading project management efforts. So it's not just being part of a project, it's not just um, being in an organization running a project. You must have been a significant part of a project. You could have been a team lead, you could have contributed in some leadership role, but you need to have done 3 years of project management for you to be able to apply for the PMP exam. The experience should not be overlapping. So if you have done 3 projects that all happened at the same time in 1 year, you cannot translate that to 3 years of experience. All of those 3 projects will translate to just 1 year of experience. Okay, and for education, I mentioned that you need 35 hours of project management education from accredited organizations. For those without a university degree, you need 7,500 hours. You need a minimum of 5 years of hands-on on project management or 60 months of project management. All of that should have happened within the last 6 years, and they should be non-overlapping as well. As regards project management education, they are all they are both the same. This is what I mean by non-overlapping. So if you have project 1 and project 2 and they overlap, this will only be accounted for as January to June and not January to April plus February to June as separate months. So you would only have 6 months of project experience if you have this kind of overlapping experience. What you need to have is project 1 and project 2, and then you have project 3 all together on a straight line leading up to 3 years of experience. That's 6 months. The exam format, we went over this already. This is a computer-based exam. There is a paper-based also, but PMI would only allow you to take a paper-based exam if within 240 kilometers or 150 miles to where you are, there is no computer-based exam, or there is no computer-based exam in your country, then you are able to take this paper-based exam. Other than that, we are all compelled to take the computer-based exam. 200 questions in 4 hours. It's available in all major cities of the world. You also have um, language aid. I think there are about 10 languages that the PMP exam is served. If someone has problem with English language, you can always ask for some kind of test accommodation that helps you with translation. It doesn't cost you any more than the cost of the exam for you to get that help. Um, the computer base is available every weekday of the month, except if there are holidays in the country where you are. Scheduling is flexible. The result is immediately after your exam. For PMI members, the cost of the exam is 405 USD. If you are a non-PMI member, the cost is 555 USD. So if you look at the difference between PMI member and non-PMI member, you would see there's a 139, there's a 144, I think. There's a $144 difference, which is even more than the cost of membership. So why don't you pay $139 to become a member and also get 405 for your exam, and doing the two, you are still better than paying $555. Remember that when you are a non-PMI member, you don't get the access to PMBOK. As a member, you have access to PMBOK and so many other privileges that PMI members have access to. A good one is the projectmanagement.com. If you are a PMI member, you have access to projectmanagement.com. It's a community of professionals, community of practice globally. It has a lot of resources that 10 years into project management, I still find myself going there for templates, for tools, for latest knowledge that I can apply to my project. So being a PMI member gives you access to that um, to that website. For Canadian residents, you're going to pay 13% HST on these prices that you see here. If you don't pass your exam, the receipt fee would be $275 for PMI members and $375 for non-PMI members. You need to receipt your exam within your eligibility period. I'm going to explain that immediately now. From the day your exam is approved, your application is approved, you have 1 year to sit for the exam. Within that 1 year, you can take the exam 3 times. If you fail it first, you need to pay additional $275 to reschedule the exam. If you fail it again, you can take it a third time with another $275. After that, you need to hold on for another 1 year before you can apply, and then you would have to start afresh with another $4 or $5. But if you um, but if you do not sit for your exam until the end of the 1 year, your eligibility expires. You lose your application. You would have to qualify again for the exam. Whatever happens to your payment, when you make payment, you also do scheduling for your exam. So if you schedule a date and you don't take exam on that date, you forfeit your fee. If you cancel more than 30 days before your exam, you get full refund. If you cancel within 30 days to your exam, there is $70 that is deducted from your application fee. If you have to reschedule within 30 days to your exam, you need to pay another $70 to reschedule. If you want to reschedule 2 days to your exam, it's not possible. If you want to cancel 2 days to your exam, it's possible, but you get no refund. What that means is that you would be able to pay $275 at a later date to resit for the exam. It's called no-show fee. At the end of 3 years, you would need to renew your certificate at $60. I will speak to this shortly now. So this is a quick a quick view of what we have been talking about all this while. You start your application. This is where you begin to put all your experience to the paper and creating your application. When you submit your application, typically within 5 business days, PMI will review it and tell you if you are approved or not. If your application is selected for audit, this is usually done randomly. If it's selected for audit, you have a maximum of 90 days to complete the audit process. If you don't pass through the audit process, then you are not able to take the exam until a later time when your condition improves. Um, Sometimes, if fraud has been detected in your application, PMI may ban you completely from writing the PMP exam. But if it's just a matter of qualification issues, then you can always apply when your qualification has improved. But typically, if your qualification has been done by professionals, within 5 business days, your application is approved. Once that is done, you are able to make your payment, and once payment is done, you can schedule your exam, take and pass your exam. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the journey towards the PMP credential itself. Bola, how do you want us to do the question answers?
Okay. So I'm thinking, do we take questions for the PMP credential first before we go into the PDU section, or do you allow you to just run through everything and then we take question and answer at the same time?
I'm open to either ways. Maybe the audience should tell us if they have questions, itching questions, burning questions.
Okay. Any question? Okay, I'm going to unmute all. Okay, so unmute all participants. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. Myra, have you got any question?
Yes, please.
Okay, please go
I
ahead.
would like to ask about the experience that is required to get the PMP certification. I am a telecommunications engineer and I've been working in this field for more than 7 years. And I've been supporting projects as a technical director. I would like to know if this experience counts or I should be in the PMO department itself to have this experience validated.
Okay, that's a very good question. Your participation on projects is sufficient for your application process. You don't necessarily have to be part of the PMO. You don't even need to have the project manager title.
Okay.
You don't need any of those. As long as you have contributed to project in significant ways in all these years that you have been working with your organization, that's just fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Taiwo.
You're welcome.
Okay, any sorry, any other question from anyone before we move to the okay? So Adironke is saying, please can you shed more light on the project management experience?
Okay. So let me say this. When I graduated, I didn't go into project management immediately. I was a volunteer with the Red Cross, Nigerian Red Cross, and I was a state youth coordinator at some point before moving to the national level. And because of my role in that organization, I was constantly initiating projects and supervising projects and leading stuff. So I did that between 2005 to 2009. So at the time when I was applying for my PMP exam in 2009, I had no formal project management experience as a project manager, but I had all those leadership role where I have um, where I had oversight for projects and was part of projects. And unfortunately, I was selected for audit, and they even had to do a more a deeper scrutiny of my experience, and they eventually said, okay, this is good enough for you to apply for the PMP. What we do, and that's part of the things that we can do for you at H.O.P.S, is to look into your resumes, look into your past experiences, and help you to see how we can craft your application to meet the needs of the PMI, not necessarily doing anything unethical, but just being able to identify what are those experiences you have had that contribute to the PM kind of experience that PMI wants from you. Does that answer your question?
Okay, right.
Thank you. Yes.
Right. Okay, so Taiwo, we've got a question from and I'm always very careful with this kind of question because I get it a lot and I'm saying to myself, how do I respond? Do I want to get into this space at all? So someone is saying, and this is only for the guys in Nigeria, does HND count as a degree?
So I would say yes, because if you have an HND and you want to apply for a postgraduate degree in the US, and you do some credential evaluation, they usually would equate your HND to a bachelor's degree in the US. So I'm very certain that PMI will accept HND. I have memories of previous clients that I have worked with HND, and we never had any issues with submitting HND as a degree. It's not like altering the information and saying this is a degree. We put it exactly as it is. So in the application process, we usually will put others, and then we try to explain what exactly it is. As long as you spend 4 years in a higher learning institution, it's considered equivalent of a degree.
Okay, I also like to add, right? So while trying to come to Canada, we had to do like credential evaluation, and I've heard people that had HND have had their credential evaluated as equivalent of a bachelor's degree, right?
Awesome.
By H.O.P.S, H.O.P.S, and the rest of that. So I think confidently I can say yes. So we've got another question here. Does it matter that you refer to your project management experience, say 2 years back? I mean, not the most recent 3 years.
Yes. If all the project experiences you're listing happened in the past 6 years, you're good.
Right. So what that means is you can have 2 project experiences in 2015, 2016, and 2014, all adding to 7,500 hours or 4,500 hours, depending on where you fall into. That can be accepted.
So what is not acceptable is that in the last 3 years you have not done any project.
Right.
So whatever you have in the past 6 years would not get you through. So if you are combining what you've done in the past 3 years with what you have in a space of 6 years, so let me elaborate on what Bola just explained, that if this is 2019, if you have done a project between 2016 and date, whatever you have done between 2013 and date will be counted. But if you haven't done anything since 2015 January and you have 3 years of experience between 2015 and 2013, it won't be accepted because the past 3 years has been blank.
Okay, so there's another question here. When someone is a member of other professional bodies like the Nigerian Society of Engineers, does it give any edge or advantage?
Not that I have seen with PMI in particular. I have seen other professional bodies give some acknowledgement to PMP credential, but not PMI acknowledging any of these other credentials. What I can say is that once you become a PMI member, once you become a PMP credential holder and you need to renew your certification at the end of 3 years, those kind of other credentials or affiliations can help you retain and sustain your PMP credential. But in terms of qualifying for the exam and becoming a PMP, there is no recognition of any other profession or affiliation in that process.
Okay, looks like we don't have any other question for now. So we can move to the next segment.
So let me just quickly wrap up going through these. I'm not sure we have any PMP on the call, but just to let you know what is ahead of your PMP journey, we will just talk about the credential cycle, because people are usually like, so you mean I go through all of these processes and I still need to renew my credential every 3 years? Taiwo, that's rigorous. Like, so just take it easy. It's not that bad. So this is the continuing certification process. From the day you pass your credential exam, it starts counting. 3 years down the line, you need to fulfill some requirement. The requirement is that you need 60 PDUs. We call these PDUs professional development units. How do you get PDUs? You need to participate in PDAs, professional development activities. What are these PDAs? These are things that keep you current, activities that keep you informed of the latest trends and events in the project management space, things that keep you relevant to employers that hired you on the ground that you are a PMI credential holder, you are a PMP certified person. So in order to keep the quality of the profession, the PMI insists that as long as you are an active credential holder who is still in the job space, you need to keep yourself fresh. I'm going to elaborate more on the PDAs on the next slide, but you need 60 PDUs in 3 years. When you get these 60 PDUs, you need to complete an application to renew your credential at the end of the 3rd year. Sometimes you can do it ahead. You will get notification when it's about time from PMI that your credential is nearing the 3rd year cycle. So you need to start submitting your PDUs and apply for renewal. It's just a form you fill, okay? You don't have to write any exam again. You just fill the form and then you pay the credential renewal fee, which is $60. I showed us that at the beginning. So it's $60 and you have your credential renewed for another 3 years. If you are not a PMI member, I think it's $135 for you to renew your PMP credential. Now, if for some reasons you forgot or you got carried away, life happens, right? And you found yourself at the end of the 3rd year, you have not renewed your certificate, PMI places you on a suspension for 1 year. So if your cycle ends, say, on the 1st of January, throughout that year, you are still entitled to being called a PMP. You are still entitled to parade yourself as a credential holder. You are just only on suspension. So during that period, you need to gather your 60 PDUs. If you are able to gather your 60 PDUs within that period and pay your renewal fee, then you are reinstated. If throughout that year you did not succeed at renewing your credential, then the credential expires. What that means is that you cannot claim anymore that you are a PMP. It will be violation of ethics and violation of PMI code of conduct to say that you're a PMP at that point. If you want to be a PMP again, you will need to go through the entire process of applying for the exam, passing the exam. And the good news is that if you don't think that you want to continue to renew your credential, you can apply for a retirement status. So if you apply for a retirement status, you can remain a PMP for life without having to submit anything. But once you apply for a retirement status, PMI would not expect that employers are still checking you on the registry if you are a PMP or not, and so it's possible you won't be found in that registry anymore. But it's not violation of ethics to say that you are a PMP. PMI just does not expect that you are still engaged with organizations as a project manager. Okay, now let me go a little deeper into this whole thing. So as far as PMI is concerned, their position as coordinator, global coordinator of the project management profession, the PMI is constantly listening to trends in the industry through academic research, through participation of professionals like you and I in conversations and conferences, and asking what are the latest trends, what are the things that employers are looking for when they hire a PMP, what are the kind of projects that are dominant in the world today that employers would hire a PMP to do. And so based on all those needs, they came up with what they call the talent triangle. So the talent triangle is all about leadership, domain knowledge. So we call that technical knowledge of project management, and then the strategic and business management. Those 3 areas are the areas that PMI considers today as the most dominant areas where employers want project management professionals to be able to function. And so for you to keep yourself relevant in that industry, for you to remain a project management professional at the end of every 3 years, you need to prove to PMI that you understand what latest trends are, you are keeping yourself informed of the events in the industries, and so on and so forth. So that's the whole reason why you need to submit these 60 PDUs. So where do you gather these PDUs from, and how do you gather them? Of the 60 PDUs, you need to get a minimum of 35 PDUs from education, project management related education. You can get as much as 25 PDUs from giving back. And then I'm going to break down what I mean by project management education. So if you take an MBA program, for instance, in the course of your MBA, you took a project management class. That is a course, that's the training. And so you can, if you had as much as 35 hours in that process, you can as well claim that you've done 35 PM education. If you attended professional meetings, and this is one of the reasons we advocate that you become a member of your local chapter. So if you are part of a local chapter, you would go for your monthly meetings where professionals are invited to speak on topical issues. And so every hour of professional meeting you participate in will count as one PDU for you. Digital media, online webinars like the conversation we're having today, I can claim 1 hour of PDU from what we're doing. If any of you had been certified, you can claim 1 hour of PDU from what we're doing right now. Self-development reading, if you picked up a book maybe on change management or business intelligence or anything that improves your knowledge and your skills or your competence as a project manager within the context of this talent triangle, you can allocate one PDU to 1 hour of self-learning. And there is also informal learning, whereby maybe in your organization there is a meeting or there is you invited a speaker to talk to you about latest trends in project management or latest trends in software development, and they're talking about agile or Scrum or any of those things that contribute to your technical knowledge of project management. You can claim PDUs for those. So the question you need to always ask yourself is that which of this talent triangle am I deficient in, and make sure that you keep yourself up to date. You can claim all your 60 PDUs from project management education. Note that you can only claim minimum of 35 PDUs, but you can have everything on project management education. PMI prefers that. What you cannot have is to get 60 PDUs from giving back. So on the on giving back section, you can do stuff like PM practice. So if I've managed a project like I am at the moment, I can claim as much as 8 hours. I lost my screen.
So give me a minute. Sorry, I must have done something.
Okay, so I can claim that
Do you have my screen back?
I left your screen. Yes, your screen is up, but the PowerPoint is not showing the.
Okay.
Okay, I'm up. Thank you.
Right.
So things like sharing PM knowledge, things like giving presentation, things like volunteering your time in courses that advance the PM profession or the PMI's course, you can get PDUs in all of those. A little clarification I need to also provide is that when you are getting your PM education PDUs, you need a minimum of 8 per the talent triangle element. That is, at the end of 3 years, at the minimum, you need to have 8 PDUs from leadership, 8 PDUs from technical project management knowledge, and 8 PDUs from strategic and business management. So if you attend conferences, you need to watch out for the kind of topics you attend to make sure that you have balance of all of this. So if you, for instance, when I was going to renew my certificate in 2018, I had already taken a Scrum certification sometime in 2016. So for me, that's a continuing education. That is a technical project management element. So I needed leadership. So when I was at the PMI conference last year, I made sure that I attended a lot of leadership meetings so that I can ramp up my leadership talent triangle requirement. And then, of course, I had my MBA in the past 2 years, so I easily gathered what I needed for strategic and business management. So I'm using all this big stuff. Don't let that scare you. You don't have to do any of these big things to meet your PDU requirements. I have made mentioned that if you read books, if you attend online webinars, if you attend meetings in your organization that contribute to PM knowledge, if you attend local chapter meetings and volunteered in stuff, you can claim PDUs from all of these. I see people fret over PDUs every now and then. It's not necessary. If you are active in any way at all, you usually would have your PDU requirement. What I have done to help clients in the past when they don't have their PDU requirements is to provide them some kind of education or some kind of project management materials to go through and to demonstrate that they went through it, and then I'm able to award them PDUs for the hours they spent doing some of those activities. So it's usually not a bad one that you are 2 months to the end of your cycle, you don't have visibility of your PDUs yet. If we look into the activities you've done in the past years, you usually can claim some PDUs. For instance, from Myra and Pat, if you were PMPs, the program you're doing at Algonquin would give you as much PDUs you may require. 60, you can get all your 60 PDUs from that because you're dealing with different aspects of project management. The last thing I want to mention is the maximum of 20 rollover. So if you have 100 PDUs in one cycle, can you take 40 of those PDUs into the next cycle? It depends, but the simple answer is no. The maximum you can take into the next cycle is 20 PDUs, but the 20 PDU you're taking into the next cycle must have been received during the last 12 months of your current cycle. So my previous cycle was ended at 2015. So I at the end of 2018, I had 90 PDUs. I don't need 90 PDUs, right? So I want to roll over whatever is excess. I can't take 30 PDUs into my current cycle. I can only take 20 into my current cycle, but those 20 must come from the months in the last the months, the 12 months leading to the end of my cycle in 2018. I hope I didn't confuse anyone. So if you look at the diagram on the screen, you would see something like year 1, year 2, year 3. If at the end of year 3 you don't complete your CCR, you have 1 year suspension. During that period, you're still a PMP. If you don't meet it at the end of that period, then you get dropped out of the registry, and then you're no longer a PMP. But if you renew, another year starts from the day you renew. So the reason I put this diagram here is so that you can understand what it means when you have 1 year suspension. So if at the end of 2018, I did not renew my credential, and then I'm on suspension right now, and then I still don't have time until maybe sometimes in September of 2019, I finally renewed my credential. I'm not going to start counting from September. I'm going to start counting from when the original cycle expired, which was December 2018. So even though I'm renewing in September, my cycle started in January of 2019, and so by 2021 December, I will be due for another renewal. So it's important to keep that in mind. I'm not sure I have skipped anything, but if you have questions, we can take all the questions now. Sorry, we went a little over time, but I hope we've answered some of the curiosities you may have about the PMP exam and sustaining your credentials. Bola, you picked up some notes you want to chime in at this point?
Pretty much everything has been said and shared. I think I just want to sell PMP a little more, and I want to use my personal experience. So I started just like Taiwo. I I started in IT. I was an IT officer, help desk, in Nigeria, in Lagos. I was an IT officer. I was literally just doing the IT support thing, helping people to connect their system to the internet, helping them to change their power packs and all of those. And I was not really fulfilled. I didn't like what I was doing. And I wanted to do project management. So what I did was I started flinging my CVs around to people to say, hey, I want to be a project manager now, and I'm looking for an opportunity. Do you want me? And nobody was calling me for interview, right? And in August of 2011, I wrote the PMP exam, and then I passed. And within 4 months after my PMP certification exam, I got a job with a consulting company as a project manager. First ever. And my salary went from 100%, right? So I was earning something around 75 to 80K. After I wrote my PMP, within 4 months, I got a job as a project manager with a consulting company, and I was earning 180K, right? And from then, it's been a blast, if you know what I mean. I don't know, Taiwo. I think I invested like just $1,000 on PMP, and now you need to understand, right? 1,000 US dollars from where we came from, $555 for the exam, and then the remaining, the dollar was still very strong, X, Y, and Z. And in less than 1 year, did I say 1 year? In less than 1 year, I made $1,000 back outside of normal monthly salary. And it's been like that. That's on one part. On the other part, if you go to Indeed, Monster, Glassdoor, and look for project manager opportunities, you will see 8 out of 10 openings will have PMP as a requirement. Some will have it as a must-have. Some will have it as a nice-to-have. But that requirement is always there. Also, project management professional certification is not only for project managers. A lot of management positions now require knowledge, understanding, and maybe a certification in project management. PMI hasn't paid us for this, but it's what we've experienced, and it's what we know, and it's what we want to get as many people as possible to be part of.
And this is a little I can add to that. If you think of a business that has opened since 1969 and opened in the US and has grown and grown and grown, has become something that all over the world everyone is talking about, there has to be some reliability, there has to be some consistency, there has to be some result that organizations get when they do business with PMI. The only value on the credential you're seeking is the contribution that PMPs in the past have contributed to the industry. It is the recognition of the contribution of PMPs right now that will make an employer to see a new PMP and say, come on board, because it seems these guys, when they show up, things get better. And it's like I say this every now and then, that this is not rocket science. It's not one of those professions that require you to have IQ of 120 over 120. You just need to be smart and understand all these processes, tools, and techniques, and just have a working knowledge of relating with people. If you think about the 10 knowledge areas, you will see that this is just all about some management processes that you don't find in a crystallized form in any of the conventional education we have out there. So with the amount of time you put into getting the PMP, you are doing yourself more favor than someone probably spending 2 years getting an MBA in a university or something because of the popularity of the credential you are seeking. So it's a really valuable credential, really valuable credential.
All right. So someone has a question. I'm not sure it's a question that we can address totally here. But what I'm just going to say after Taiwo provides some answer is connect with myself on LinkedIn, connect with Taiwo, and then we can take it from there. So what's the question? Thanks for the clarification. So what's next? That's number one. Number two, how do I build capacity? Not just nomenclature. What
Right.
next? Then how do I build capacity?
That is a proactive question. The part of what next, like Bola said, you can we can discuss outside of here and point you to different things you can do and get started. But as far as what next, just decide if PMP is something you want to do, and then let's structure out how you want to go for it. You can start with thinking about timeline. Do I want to get it in 2019? Do I have enough experience? Do I have enough? Can I get the formal education I need in project management? Do I have the resources or the finance and the time availability to prepare for the exam and stuff like that? Those are typical things that Paula or myself will be discussing with you on what next. In terms of building capability, I get this a lot, and the reason I said it's a brilliant question is not because I'm just being polite. There are people who have passed their PMP exam before they start to think about what you're asking upfront. So the the best way to think about the PMP credential is that the PMP itself does not give you project management experience, does not mean that you have arrived. It is just an acknowledgement that you have demonstrated ability to apply PMI standards to projects in any organization. So for you to build that capacity and build those muscles strong enough to always find it comfortable and easy to apply the PMI standards, it's only by repetition. It's the same thing like you going to the gym and trying to tone your muscles. You need to do it consistently over and over and over. And a time comes when you feel so comfortable, feel so natural applying these processes to whatever activities it is that you want to do. And to wait for an elaborate project is usually not the best because you may not get an elaborate project where they say you are the project manager immediately. So what I usually advise is that if you look into your daily endeavors, if you look into your daily engagement and interactions, there are project-like stuffs that you encounter that you can apply these principles to deliberately. For instance, it would not be anybody's business that you want to take the PMP exam, and because it's nobody's business, you really don't need to start creating scope documents. You don't need to start creating work breakdown structure because you're not communicating to anybody. It's all for you. But because you want to reinforce your knowledge of project management, you may decide to apply these PMI principles. You may decide to apply these standards to as simple as I want to write the PMP exam. I'm going to make it a project, apply these standards, and see how much understanding I'm demonstrating using the standards. Or someone comes to you and says, "Hey, my friend, I'm getting married. I'm just planning this." You can volunteer to say, "Do you want me to make this a serious thing? I can help you organize things." You can volunteer. You can volunteer in places. There are many places where they would appreciate the knowledge that you have. And in some of those places, you never know what comes out at the end of those kind of engagement. If you're looking for one big beneficiary of volunteer opportunities, Bola will tell you I am. Like I my beginning with PMI would not even be possible if I wasn't volunteering for the Red Cross. I wasn't in the Red Cross to make anything, but when the time comes to account for the time I had spent with the Red Cross, there was my volunteer experience there to account for my requirements. So it's important that you just tone your muscle, apply the knowledge on a consistent basis, find opportunities every now and then. We joke around, Bola's family and mine, we're very close. We joke around, these guys are just too serious, or they are PMP, or you bring up a family conversation. We're like, okay, let's put it on a PowerPoint and let's see the flow, the workflow. Let's see the breakdown. And people are just laughing at us like, guys, easy. This is just an informal thing. But the idea is that we're toning some muscle. So even if it's not for us, it's for those people we're dealing with. So make opportunity out of everything that comes your way to train yourself and remind yourself of the standards. It helps. It pays off. Sorry, I talk too much.
All right, so I think I know. Interestingly, I think I know the person that asked the very brilliant question. Yeah. So let's talk. Of course, I know you too. So let's talk, right? Yeah, let's talk. Remember, I just got a connection request from Path. Connect with Taiwo, connect with him, connect with myself on LinkedIn. We're building a pool of mentors and coaches that can provide some bit of guidance, some bit of direction to professionals in business analysis, project management, change management, and all sort of that through the social enterprise, helping other people succeed. Any last word from you, Taiwo, before we just hear one or two things from the attendees?
Yeah, many times I have found myself being too generous with time. I say that, oh, contact me if you need any question, if you want to. People are just probably respecting my time. I'm the one who says you should contact me. So if anything at all comes up and you need clarification or you need any kind of help, that's the spirit of what we're doing. Don't hesitate to contact me. Like you would always get some kind of help that can make things easier for you.
Okay. Any other word from anyone? Ajironke, Atinuke, Chinyere, Damilola, Myra,
Yes.
Sunday.
I actually have a question. My name is Chinyere. Yes. So thank you very much, Taiwo and Bola. It's been quite interesting. But throughout your presentation, I kept wondering what the difference between PMP and CBAP is.
Okay.
Because I've been looking at both of them.
Right.
And this is the first time I'm having someone clarify the meaning of PMP. But okay. CBAP, I know, Bola, you have qualifications in both.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is the right place to ask that question, but
okay. Yeah, I can just jump in for 1 minute. CBAP is Certified Business Analysis Professional. It's a certification for business analysts, provided, administered, conducted by a different body, a different organization called International Institute for Business Analysis. Maybe we will hold another online info session about CBAP.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, but it's one is for business analysis, the other is for project management.
Okay, and they're not related in any way. They're different.
In terms of the certification, they're not related, but in terms of the function, they are related. So a project manager and a business analyst work together all the time on projects.
Okay. Okay.
But the certifications are different. The address different functions, and they accredit different capabilities. But those capabilities relate together on projects all the time. A BA works with a PM works with a BA all the time on projects.
And in fact, if you are a PMP and you are due to renew your certificate, having got a CBAP, you have almost 45 PDUs from that. The same thing for CBAP. If you're trying to renew and you have PMP, you have a good chunk of PDUs because they acknowledge the complementary nature of the certifications.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just one more question. While you were doing your presentation, you mentioned something about a charter. You said project management must have a charter or something. I didn't really understand what charter is.
Okay, quickly, that was actually going a little too much into the weed, but it's a document that is produced that gives a life status to a project. So before a project manager gains authority over a project or identifies a team and begin to apply organization's resources to a project, it usually would require a formalization of the project itself, and that formalization happens through a project charter. So what I was trying to explain was that in many organizations, they will not call it a project charter, but it's just nomenclature stuff. They may call it any other name, but as long as you have your project manager identified, you have a business justification for the project, you have an idea, the project brief, you know the stakeholders, you have resources, then you have completed the things that a project charter would ask you to complete.
Okay.
It's just an initiating document.
Okay. I'll just read more on that. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Chinyere. So we've got some feedback here. Good meeting. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone. Any other question from anyone? Any comment? If there is none, I'll just wait for 1-2 minutes and we'll close the session.
All right, mine is just word of appreciation. This is Sunday Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was indeed a very good session. I really enjoy and appreciate you guys. Nice work you're doing here. I'm looking at where we can, with this team that you have, possibly we get more people. We should have constant engagement because we see you guys now. We see you guys now as our mentors towards becoming project manager certified. So I would really appreciate if this will be a continuous engagement.
Yes, it will be. Apart from the online info sessions that we plan to hold regularly, mentoring, coaching are part of the other things that we've started doing, and we're going to continue to do. Putting more structure to it using the platform of H.O.P.S. So if you haven't connected with any of us, please do connect, reach out if you need anything. And myself, Taiwo, and a couple of other friends will be willing to assist, to jump on a call, to schedule a call, X, Y, and Z.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Yes. Hi, this is Damlola. I thank you guys so much for giving us this benefit to understand how the process flows. Like the last caller said, it's very important to constantly refresh ourselves, and I look forward to talking to you guys one-on-one and in future webinars like this also. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Dami. I think I know Dami also.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. All right, boss.
All right. Cheers. Okay. Looks like that will be all. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. Some of the guys that are joining from Nigeria, I know it's like, what, 12 o'clock? Thank you. Thank you very much, Taiwo,
You're welcome. My
Right.
pleasure.
Right. All right. So this webinar is being recorded. In the next 24 hours, we will share the link to the recording with you. Yeah, and just we're working on the website, by the way. Just keep checking with us. It doesn't have to be through an organized or a formal session like this. You can just drop a mail, drop a text or anything to any of us, and we'll be more than glad to respond. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy what's left of your night and have a good weekend.
All right.
All right. Bye for now.
All right, bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, bye for now.